And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love, and the StreamYard link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. And we're going to get into trust funds and redemption tonight. And anybody, like I said, that StreamYard link is down there. Anybody's welcome. For anybody that discusses either one of these topics, come on up and let's talk about things. But I've got something already lined up that I want to present, and hopefully this will explain a concept only. And again, when it comes to this kind of stuff, we got to remember this is about your ability to contract and understand all the words, terms, and conditions before you that imply various different things, and understanding those languages. In the laws of the United States, which is that presumption of that citizenship, United States citizen, and the residency that we always talk about, that misidentification. So let's talk about it starting with 31 U.S. Code 1321, trust funds. Now, under trust funds, we're going to see all kinds of stuff. And it starts out, the following are classified as trust funds. Then you see the Philippine Special Fund, Customs Duties, Philippine Special Fund, Internal Revenue, Unclaimed Condemnation Awards, Department of the Treasury, Naval Reservation, Longapo Civil Fund, Armed Forces Retirement Home Trust Fund, blah, 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 blah. We're going to go all the way down here to 73. As it relates to those legal and commercial entities related to the estates of decedents. This is truly what they're administrating in these courts and stuff, is estates of decedents. They can't, in fact, administrate the estate of one that is alive, or that one is living and breathing, but only those of people that have deceased. But there is such a thing set up for decedents. So then we're going to get into what is a Treasury direct account. We've discussed this one before. But we're going to discuss it again because there's certain details that we need to understand here, or comprehend and discuss and determine whether I'm right or wrong in my interpretation of all of this. But to me, it seems like pretty plain language, right? Plain language. So let's first talk about the element that we see before us, and that is, what is a Treasury? Notice there's no space, direct, but yet there's a capital letter in there. So there's Treasury direct, and then there's this circle around the R. So that's a registered trade name or trademark, showing that Treasury direct is a registered agency. Okay? And what is a Treasury direct account? Well, it says, what is a Treasury direct account? A Treasury direct account is an online account maintained by us solely in your name, in which you may hold and conduct transactions in eligible book entry Treasury securities. Okay, so it's an online account maintained by them solely in your name, in which you may hold and conduct transactions. Conduct the transactions. This is important to comprehend here. The next one is very important because this is the establishment of that account. The primary account is the account that you establish when initially opening your Treasury Direct account. So it's not something that's opened up prior to you. Okay, this is something, so all these people telling you that there's already an account opened up in your name, that's bullshit. Okay, the language here says it's an account that you establish. Not that somebody else established upon your birth or something, but you establish when initially opening your Treasury Direct account. The primary account may contain the following Treasury securities. Look at that first one. Individual. Isn't that one of those persons? Those United States citizens, the residents, the individual, that person. 5 U.S.C. 552A, records maintained on individuals. And it says a primary account for an individual may contain Treasury securities. May doesn't mean it has or does or must. It says may contain Treasury securities purchased initially as book entry securities that are your personal holdings registered in single owner, owner with beneficiary, and primary owner with secondary owner forms of registrations. What is a book entry security? This is the definitive paper form that is entered into a secure system that allows for time stamping and security certificates. Blockchaining, the electronic book entry system. And a book entry security is the definitive paper form that is converted into the electronic system. That are your personal holdings that you register. That's when you register it with them into that electronic book entry system. In single owner, owner with beneficiary, and primary owner with secondary owner forms of registration. Gifts of savings bonds that have not yet been delivered, and converted savings bonds that were transferred from the conversion linked account. It's a linked account that allows for the instruments to be converted. Conversion linked account. Entities. A primary account for an entity may contain Treasury securities purchased initially as book entry securities registered in the name of the entity, and converted savings bonds in the name of the entity that were transferred from the conversion linked account. So what is the distinct difference between an individual and an entity then? Entity from 31 CFR 363.6, which we'll be looking at next. Entity means any owner of a Treasury Direct account that is not an individual. So it's specifying the individual is singular by itself, and everything else that is not an individual is an entity. Again, 5 U.S.C. 552A, records maintained on individuals. Now, if those are records maintained on individuals, wouldn't that be some sort of linked account? Any of those bank accounts, any kind of accounting is a linked account, according to data elements. It's government information they're seeking, and you're giving them your information as though it's government information as a linked account on a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent. You're not. A linked account is an account that is a separate account from your primary account, but that is connected to your primary account. You use your primary account as a portal to open and access the linked account. So the primary account is merely a portal to open and access the linked account. Now, what is a portal to linking and accessing other accounts but a routing? There are different portals, and this is one of them portals that you use, which is your primary account, to open and access the linked accounts. Now, the linked accounts include the following. Custom account. A custom account is an account that is linked to your primary account. You use your primary account as a portal to open and access your custom account. You may informally designate a purpose for the custom account. For example, vacation fund or Johnny's college fund. However, the designation as to the purpose has no legal effect. In other words, those remain the same kinds of accounts. It doesn't change the legal effect of the account. You've just now separated from the primary account as a specific funding account for this purpose. The registration of the securities held in the customs account determines ownership. Annual purchase limitations include securities held in customs accounts. You guys understand what it's saying here? Okay? You're making deposits into that account. That's called a custom account. And those are what, folks? Securities held in customs accounts. The registration of the securities held in the customs account determines ownership. You, as an individual owner, saying that ownership does include the individual, may use your custom account to buy, redeem, and transfer securities that you own in single owner, owner with beneficiary, and primary owner with secondary owner forms of registration. What are those bills that you guys get? Are those securities that you can deposit under ownership and give a directive under that ownership as to the form of the registration so that you can buy, redeem, and transfer? That very security that utility company sent you, that's a security, and now you have that, you could deposit it for the purpose of buying, redeeming, and transferring. As it says here, that is a security, correct? An individual owner may also buy and deliver gift savings bonds from the custom account. An entity account manager acting on behalf of an entity may use the entity's custom account to buy, redeem, and transfer securities registered in the entity form of registration. So like I pointed out earlier, there's two forms, entity and individual. And then according to those, you have linked accounts, custom account, which include custom account, which includes those entities and individuals under two different forms of registration. Now you have a minor account. Is an account established by an individual custodian for an individual who has not yet reached the age of 18 years, and we do not permit an entity open a minor account. A minor account is linked to the custodian's primary account. The minor account is linked to the custodian's primary account. So if you think that there's a primary account or a minor account that has you included on it, then you better damn well make sure that's exactly what it is. Because if it's not, then you might be making false accusations. But if that is true, then that is what is stating here is that if that's considered a minor account, then it's attached or connected to the custodian's primary account, and that would mean they are the one liable, obligated, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Here it says the minor is the owner of the securities, but the custodian controls the account on behalf of the minor. So the minor is the owner of the securities, meaning they have right of possession and use, which is equity title, but the custodian controls the account on behalf of the minor, which is the legal title for entry and control. They control the accounts for the entry of those deposits, as well as the extraction, exiting. See 363.27 for more information about minor accounts. Now here's where it says that conversion account under a linked account. Conversion linked account means a linked account. Conversion account means a linked account in Treasury Direct that contains only savings bonds that have been converted from definitive bonds to book entry bonds. This is what I was talking about, the definitive paper bonds that you're able to convert to book entry bonds to buy, redeem, and transfer. So it's those definitive bonds that you're able to deposit for redemption in lawful money. And then it talks about closing an account. If a Treasury Direct primary account and all associated linked accounts have had no holdings and no activity for a period of 2 years, we reserve the right to close the account, along with all linked accounts. Yeah, that's same right. But again, it depends upon what those holdings and activities are in those 2 years. Oops. Don't know how long you've been waiting there, John, but thank you. How you doing, Brother John? Good to see you.
Good, Brother Keith. Doing great.
Good.
You know, I would have been more than happy to go to school to learn how to be a trustee or be a beneficiary. I mean, I could learn. I could know things. I'm a man. Why can't anyone talk to me? What is this? I'm a grown-up. You know?
Exactly.
You don't have to play tricks, right?
Yeah, and that's why it kind of seems kind of dubious that it's almost intentful, it seems, that the public education system does this specifically, kind of like a mechanism to hold everybody back. It's that adage that they come up with: leave no child behind. Well, what happens is you end up holding those that excel back in order to feel those that are trailing behind to feel better. Well, there's a scope of levels of things that we need to teach our children, and everybody's going to learn their own way at their own paces. And by trying to delineate all of them into one way of learning, and that learning only allows for remembering and no actual thought process, You've been duped.
So recite what the teacher said. I got it.
Well, that's a large part of the problem. The teachers bring in that dogmatic thing about their own political views, and that causes chaos and confusion. Now, I think that's the largest part of what causes kickback from the children themselves. They see that insanity. Would make sense.
Yep. We're just so used to it, though, right, Keith?
Yeah,
We're
our own
so used
parents
to
were. Yeah, our own parents were indoctrinated the same way.
That's it.
So
That's it.
we go on to the next one. Where is it? I think this is it. Yeah, what special terms do I need to know? This is the CFR 363.6 that we read the previous definition out of the minor or whatever, minor account. What special terms do I need to know to understand this part? And this is the part about the Treasury Direct Account. And it says account means a Treasury Direct Account, as described in 363.10. Okay? Authentication means confirming that the person accessing a Treasury Direct Account is the same person whose identity was initially verified at account establishment. That's when you have to establish it, not mom and dad. That's not when any account like that is established. That's the Social Security account. That's a different account. Go ahead, John.
No, I thought you asked me a question because I just jumped out for 2 seconds.
Oh, well, feel free to interject anytime, like always.
Okay.
So then it talks about this automated clearinghouse that we all hear about. An automated clearinghouse means a funds transfer system governed by the rules of National Automated Clearinghouse Association, NACHAA. NACHA provides for the interbank clearing of electronic entries for participating financial institutions. See, you're not a participating financial institution. You're just one of those private customers. This is one of those points where technically you could say that private property is converted to public property. Again, it's that individual record. The next one says beneficiary. Beneficiary refers to the second individual named in the registration of a definitive savings bond, a converted definitive savings bond, or a book entry security purchased through the Treasury Direct system. Registered example, John Doe, Social Security number 123-45-6789. P.O.D. Payable on death. Payable on death. Joseph Doe. See, John Doe to Joseph Doe. So John Doe, Daddy Doe, payable on death to Sonny Doe.
Well, I never liked cookie dough ice cream, and now I know why. Just all filler. I'm a child of God. I'm not a dough.
I saw you, King Stephen, but I'm kicking you. I don't care for your mumbo jumbo. Not at all. Anyway, back on topic. So we see beneficiary refers to the second individual And again, they're using that term individual. Okay? So is that individual not the beneficiary? Records maintained on individuals. Again, I'm telling you folks, that record is the beneficiary.
Wow. The paperwork? Ooh.
Yeah. It's a record. It's a chain of title, folks. Just like I told you, electronic record, that blockchain. It's a chain of title that's so secure. It's got time certificates and time stamps and security certificates. What do you think it's all about? Chain of title. Legal title, 1/10 of the law. Gives you control and entry. Equitable title, which is 9/10 of the law, is possession and use. They are restricting your possession and use, your right of enjoyment of possessing and using a thing. In rem, the thing.
Okay, Keith. So that means the equitable interest is expressed via numeric identifiers?
Correct. The legal title expresses your inherent equitable title. John Doe, payable on death to Joseph Doe. The decedent estate would be mommy and daddy's name, not yours. Has it been probated and closed? If so, they admit that all debts have been paid. And any other debt posed in the meantime would have to be against yourself. Their paperwork says otherwise. Paperwork's always talking decedent, payable on death. They're never supposed to be bringing a charge against the living soul. Even in probate, everything's payable on death. They have proof. They have to have proof that you're deceased in order to be paid themselves. Man can't hand over his estate, even to his own son, until he dies. Why would he hand it over to another man unless he actually owes that debt?
Right. There's always a debt. Isn't that scary, Keith?
Presumed. Presumed. So let's continue on, because the next one, it says book entry security means a treasury security maintained by us in electronic or paperless form. That's why it's the definitive form is the definitive paper form, and they convert it to the paperless form. Now it's not quite so definitive, but it's presumed that it can be because the electronic record is presumed to be true and accurate, has integrity, and that those that provide that evidence are willing to sign documentation to the fact of the truth that they put in it. Is it actually true? Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a resident? Are you willing to put your testicles on the stand and testify to that, basing your assumption that the other man that told you that you are a U.S. citizen is true and correct? Without having to look it up for yourself, I'm telling you, folks, don't believe me, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't even believe your mother. Do your research so you know. You cannot possibly be a United States citizen. You can have a United States citizen. A United States business means a United States citizen. Therefore, a United States citizen means a United States business. And you can either have a business or you may not. And in this case, if you have such a business, United States business, it would be relative to the United States because they allowed you to have a United States business in the name of the United States and not your own. John Doe, Joseph Doe. Business day means any day that funds may be settled through ACH. So now we know that the automated clearinghouse means a funds transfer system governed by the rules of the National Automated Clearinghouse Association, and that automated clearing is a settlement. Is that not the process we're seeking? Is a settlement process? Just a question, folks. I mean, if you look at the language, you'll see that's what it's telling us right here. Business day means any day that funds may be settled through automated clearinghouse, telling us that funds are settled, which is the billing, the transfer of the funds, both sides. It's an equal consideration. Closed book period means a period of 4 business days prior to the date a scheduled marketable security interest, not the scheduled marketable security, but the interest and or maturity payment is made, during which time certain transactions will be delayed until after the closed book period is completed. And it tells you to see 363.210. Commercial book entry system refers to the book entry system in which you hold your treasury securities in a tiered system through securities intermediaries such as financial institutions or brokerage firms. These are the banks and credit unions and things like that. Financial advisors. Court means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties and the subject matter. Now, the parties, this is where the individual and the entity comes in. How are they grammatically styled and expressed and addressed? These are particulars that make a difference in any court. Conversion account means a linked account in Treasury Direct that contains only savings bonds that have been converted from definitive bonds to book entry bonds. So it's telling us here that the conversion account holds no paper records. Those records have already been converted. And now there's no longer a need. This is why when we ask about the state and their claim about title of motor vehicles, because those definitive bonds, the titles, have been converted to electronic book entries. And they only have them in the electronic form, which allows for them to print out a definitive paper form bond. Quid pro quo, remaining and maintaining equal consideration. This is why you're allowed to receive a birth certificate with those 2 signatures, 2 seals. A bond. Converted savings bond means a savings bond originally issued as a definitive bond that has been surrendered to us and converted to a book entry savings bond to be maintained by Treasury solely as a computer record. Does that sound like you're going to be able to maintain an account with digital credits?
No, because it's a virtual record.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's a digital record. That's all it is. It becomes a digital record, a computer record. So now as a computer record, it holds no paper, so it's definitely nothing but credit. You can only give credence to that digital record. And for that credence, now you can have somebody else print out bills, bills of exchange, bills of credit, bills of equity. See, it's the record that's supposed to maintain the integrity. And it sounds to me that once it hits this account, it's settled, and therefore any digital numerical value that it has already been accredited and cannot be further judicially determined other than by your own routing and directives under that routing. They're obligated to give credit now because it's there.
So it's auto settled.
Correct. You just hand it over, surrender, just like it says. Means a savings bond originally issued as a definitive bond that has been surrendered to us and converted to a book entry savings bond to be maintained by Treasury solely as a computer record. So you have a linked account in that computer, that Treasury, for your utility bills. And every month you send in that definitive bond, that coupon, for them to redeem in lawful money. That is a conversion of that definitive bond to credits that remain on the account. The utility company is given its share of credits, and your share of credits remain on your account. And you'll see that here later as we discuss more of this. Converting co-owner is the co-owner who initiates and completes the transaction to convert definitive saving bonds to a book entry bond through his or her Treasury direct account. Co-owner means either of the persons named in the registration of definitive or converted definitive savings bond. Registered example, John Doe or Joseph Doe. Again, giving you the exact same example. Custodian of a minor account means a person who opens account on behalf of the minor. Did you establish the account for yourself, or did a custodian open an account on behalf of a minor? Custom account means an account that you establish for a specific purpose that is linked to your primary account. Again, you're the one establishing the primary account. You will create the custom account, not a custodian. You use your primary account as the portal to open and access your custom linked account, which we discussed already. Definitive security. Definitive security means a treasury security held in paper form. From 31 CFR 1010.100. Security means any instrument or interest described in Section 3A10 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, 15 U.S.C. 78 CA10. Remember that interest. Now it's the interest described in said section. (15 U.S. Code 78C), definitions and application. A, when used in this chapter, unless the context otherwise requires, and it tells you the term, and it goes down to 10, A10. Oops. The term security. And I want all you renters out there to know that you use the term regularly every time you go get a new apartment and you make a security deposit. That's as simple as it gets, folks. Everything you do with that paper, that commercial paper, that is in some form an interest in the securitization thereof. The term security means any note, stock, treasury stock, security future, security-based swap, bond. Bond. Now we have the terms security and bond being synonymous. 18 U.S.C. 8, obligations and other securities of the United States. And the first three words it says includes all bonds. Bond. Debenture. Certificate of interest or participation in any profit sharing agreement or in any oil, gas, or other mineral royalty or lease. Or collateral trust certificate, pre-organization certificate, or subscription, even if it's free on YouTube. Fuck YouTube and their policy. It too must have the proper securitization, transferable share, investment contract, voting trust certificate, certificate of deposit for a security, any put, call, straddle, option, or privilege on any security, certificate of deposit, or group or index of securities, including any interest therein or based on the value thereof, or any put, call, straddle, option, or privilege entered into on a national securities exchange relating to a foreign currency. And that's why they have to have all of these bonds. That's a different type of thing. You know, checks and money orders are foreign currency, folks. Yo, bet you didn't know that. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't think about it enough to realize what we're talking about here. Or in general, any instrument commonly known as a security or any certificate of interest or participation in, temporary or interim certificate for, receipt for, or warrant or right to subscribe to or purchase any of the foregoing, but shall not include currency or any note, draft, bill of exchange, or banker's acceptance, which has a maturity at the time of issuance of not exceeding 9 months. Exclusive only of days of grace or any renewal thereof, maturity of which is likewise limited. And that is the term security. And guess what term they have right below that, folks? Right below that, folks, they have equity security. And equity security means any stock or similar security or any security future on any such security or any security convertible with or without consideration into such a security or carrying any warrant or right to subscribe to or purchase such a security or any such warrant or right or any other security which the Commission shall deem to be similar nature and consider necessary and appropriate by such rules and regulations as it may prescribe in the public interest and for the protection of investors to treat as an equity security. And one of the things I want to point out here is that when we talk about equity, we think about one of the most prominent things in equity is if you want equity, you must first come with equity. So when we speak about any kind of security interest, again, as it relates to 1/9 of the law or 1/10 of the law being the legal title and 9/10 of the law being that equity title, we're talking about the security interest, which is the legal title, and the equity security interest, which is the equitable title. And again, this because the similar nature. If you don't understand how your performance and your actions and everything seem similar without separating them and knowing that firsthand, you'll never learn how to come with equity and show that your actions speak louder than your words through the possession and use of those things that you're trying to use. You won't make the claim of ownership. You'll dispel the need for a legal title, and that need for a legal title would only be to a custodian, which is
Who owns
a
the
severe
liability?
right, which is a severe limitation on their use and possession. They have control and entry, but with that comes that great liability to make sure that if they do use that enforcement of control and entry, that they're damn right about what they're making the accusations about. And this is why they don't hold that immunity. So anyway, back to it. And it says, shall deem to be of similar nature and consider necessary or appropriate by such rules and regulations as it may prescribe in the public interest or for the protection of the investors to treat as an equity security. So it's always premised that the equity is the better side of things. That's far superior to the democracy where you have a 50-50, 51-49. You have 9/10 of the law versus 1/10 of the law. That's far greater republic vote by knowledge of how to possess and use things rather than claim false ownership. That's that legal title. You're going to claim you have legal title? Good. You're holding that documentation that needs to be converted to a book entry security. Why would you hold such instrument making a false claim? Because that's my name on that instrument you're holding and trying to say you have authority over me? I'm the one with the superior interest in equity, dummy. Anyway, coming with equity, come with clean hands. They're just dummies. They've been indoctrinated too. You don't come back with accusations and stuff unless you give them that fair notice and they continue on and say, well, no, I'm going to destroy you, and actually have some kind of ability and willingness to do so. And then you might want to push those accusations, and they would be sedition and treason. So let's continue on, get back to where we were, and that was back here where we started with the security, the interest. As a definition, we found definitive security means a treasury security held in paper form. So again, they're going to convert that definitive form once you surrender it to them. D-Link means the online process by which all securities contained within a minor linked account are moved to the minor's primary treasury direct account, and the linked account is deactivated. So it sounds like there's something where you can delink the minor account and move it to the minor's primary account. Does that sound like you go to the Treasury Direct and establish a primary account and then move the minor account? Does that not sound like a transfer of title? Expenses incidental to transfer of title to the United States, please. Well, don't I need to gather up all those securities at the state level and have them transferred to the agency? Doesn't that sound like expenses incidental to transfer of title to the agency? Now, once they get to the United States in this Treasury, don't we move those credits through a linked account? showing that they've already been accredited and they cannot be held as any kind of form of debt. And now it's the use of extending those credits. Customer agrees to make third-party payment so long as it's understood that credit is given to the customer's account. Sounds like equal consideration because I gave credits. So now you give me credits back. I don't want your definitive paper. That's too much for me to hold. I'd rather you just give me my credits back. Use my credits. When you're done, give them back. Guess what? Folks, that is just like my neighbor coming out and say, hey, my battery died in my car. I need you to help me charge it up. I'm going to go out there with my battery charger and I'm going to give credit to his car by charging it up. When it's done getting charged up, I get my battery charger back so I can extend those credits to somebody else. He can use those credits in his system as long as they last. It's called circulation. It's called currency. It's there. Understand what they're doing when they charge you. They're saying you need credence. They're going to charge you. Your phone dies down. The decedent, they're going to charge them. Move to the minor's primary treasury direct account, and the linked account is deactivated. Deactivated. Here's a good one. Remember this one, delivery. You were born and you went into the delivery room where there's a livery stable, which in there are stalls where horses stand in place. They're known as stalls, places of standing. Wink, wink. In case you're not catching on to the language, delivery means moving a minimum amount of $25 of a security held as a gift from the account of the purchaser to the account of the recipient. $25 of a security held as a gift. So the security is held as a gift, and you can move $25, a minimum of $25 of the security. So the security has more than $25. It's a security. Maybe it even only has $25, but again, you give it as a gift, and then it's counterbalanced with the receiving of another gift of equal value. So now it's charged back up to the original $25. Isn't that a credit system? Revolving credit. Okay, now here we go. Entity means any owner of a Treasury Direct account that is not an individual. Okay, so again, they're clarifying what I said earlier. So an entity is everything else that is not the individual, because they only gave the individual an entity. They're clarifying that here the same way I did. Entity is a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, limited liability company, or professional limited liability company, trust, the estate of a decedent, or the estate of a living person, such as an incompetent or minor. Any comments, John?
Well, I mean, assumption of minor is just getting long in the tooth here. I was a minor 35 years ago. Come on.
Yep. But we find out that here it has really nothing to do with the age. It has to do with who's registering what and whose name. That's it.
Right, plus our mental competency that they assume.
Yep. Incompetent or a minor. And that's why it's so important to go through this stuff and understand what's happening. Again, so that you can give that directive, Treasury Direct, under full acquittance and discharge, so that no person shall be held in any account or held liable in any court. Wherein, yeah, because all parties and subject matter are settled through the ACH, Automatic Clearinghouse. It's a settlement process. You settle things with all parties. That way nobody's held liable in any court. It's a settlement. Whether you're an entity or an individual. Entity account manager is the individual who initially opens a Treasury Direct account for an entity or his or her replacement who is authorized by the entity to act alone on its behalf to open, access, and conduct transactions with respect to the account, and who certifies that he or she is so authorized. What were those notes and certificates and everything? Federal Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank means a Federal Reserve Bank or branch. Final maturity of a savings bond means the date beyond which an unredeemed savings bond no longer earns interest. But the interest remains until it's paid out. It just no longer earns any more interest. It comes to full realization without being realized yet, because it wasn't paid out. The bond itself matured into realization, but the parties that are supposed to benefit from a payment of that haven't realized it. Series EE and Series I savings bond currently have an original maturity period of 20 years and an extended maturity period of 10 years beyond original maturity, during which the bonds continue to earn an interest. Financial institution or depository financial institution means an entity described in 12 U.S.C. 461, B1A 1 through 6. Required amounts of reserves maintained against transaction accounts. So they are transaction accounts. Waiver or ratio limits in extraordinary circumstances. Supplemental reserves, reserves related to foreign obligations or assets. Remember that Trading with the Enemy Act is an economic program of warfare for seizing foreign assets. Okay? Exemption for certain deposits, discount and borrowing, transitional adjustments, additional exemptions and waivers, earnings on balances. For holding a certain balance, there's an earning. The following definitions and rules apply to the subsection C, and say da-da-da-da. The term depository institution means any insured bank. Got to be insured. Defined in section, and you can find those under the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, 12 U.S.C. 1813, which is where they hold the definition of deposit that I refer to all the time. Okay? Any mutual savings bank, any savings bank, any insured credit union, any member as defined in section 1422 of this title, any savings association, again mentioning 12 U.S.C. 1313 or 1813. So it's a savings association for the purposes of section 248-1, 342 to 347, 347C, 347D, and 372 of this title. any association or entity which is wholly owned by or which consists only of institutions referred to in clauses 1 through 6. So the purpose must be maintained solely by these kinds of banks and a savings association. It says any member, 1422 this title. The term member means any institution which has subscribed for the stock of a federal home loan bank. Specifically for a federal home loan bank, those are the members, stockholders of federal home loan banks. Okay? So we go back, and it says gift. Is everybody with me still? I'm going to drop this link just in case anybody wants to come up. Open panel, folks. Feel free to join us as we discuss all these terms and conditions. Try to help figure things out for people. Show that there's already a process, and it's kind of uniform throughout all the jurisdictions. The things that I'm running across show that they tend to agree if you just understand that process and how things are supposed to move through it. And hopefully I'm on the right path. This redemption and all that, they speak about it themselves, buying, redeeming, and transferring securities. Well, those are legal securities and equitable securities. Incompetent or gift treasury, or gift means treasury security purchased for or transferred to an intended recipient without consideration. Without consideration. When you don't give anything with consideration, it becomes a gift.
Right. There's no negotiations or no expectations or no definitions of what's going to happen, right?
Yep. You're therefore bound by the considerations that were put out in the offer that you accepted. Offer and acceptance. So this is why I say beware of what somebody's offering you. Understand the conditions of the grammar styles they're using. They're not the common parlance you might think they are. The next one is that incompetent individual or incompetent person we were talking about earlier, John. And it means an individual who has been declared by a court to be legally incompetent. Well, the problem with that is that isn't that what the colleges are for going to study law, is to prove that you are legally competent and learned of the law? And that way they have to have some kind of degree to have pass a bar and all that. Isn't that why we would expect the police to have that same kind of degree in intellect? But they don't. They're just a standing army, folks. Martial law, soft martial law. Martial law chiefly affects the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes for the expelled government or the invading forces for its army and its safety and the safety of its operations. That's it.
Or to seize property in some capacities, right, Keith?
Well, yeah, but again, it's all supposed to be for the benefit of the Army of the United States.
Oh, okay.
Not for anybody's private interests or private gain or anything like that. So again, declared by a court to be illegally incompetent, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to manage his or her financial affairs. Okay? Individual, and I want everybody to understand, this is by no means me trying to point out that in order to do anything and have any kind of effect that you need to do this process or anything. I'm just trying to explain that if you're going to do it, I think this is the process that it seems to be going. Because this right here points out, I don't care if you whether you know how to manage your financial affairs or not. And I urge you that if you say you don't, that either you figure that out or find a way to live a life without having to have financial affairs. And I know, again, that's probably going to be kind of difficult for many people to even comprehend. It's called abstract thinking, outside of the box. It's commodity thinking rather than fiat thinking. Anyway, individual means a natural person. So again, it's always going to be that person form. An individual is some kind of a person. It is not you. Records maintained on individuals. It's the record. Okay. Interest on a savings bond means the difference between the purchase price and the redemption value of the bond. So when you buy one of those birth certificates and you think you want to redeem it by surrendering it to them to take care of certain things, is there a redemption value?
Good question.
I got a Denmark Andy in the back room. I gotta see you, brother. Denmark Andy, greetings. How you doing today?
Hello. I'm
Appreciate
okay, bro.
that.
Just got tank station. Bought some more. What are
So
you about?
well, we're talking about the Treasury Direct program here through the United States and bonds and how they're issued and supposed to be routed. And it
Okay.
tells us here that there's a custodian or an owner, an individual owner that can do certain transfers, buys, and redemptions. And so that's what we're going over, is trying to figure out the process of redemption by handing certain things over to those that are supposed to do that.
Okay, good man. Good work. You know, all this shit, it sounds complicated and hard, and if you want to go into it, you really got to do it. And most people wouldn't mind that doing it.
Yeah, and that's I'm hoping this video. Yeah, and I'm hoping this video doesn't get too long, folks. But at the same time, it's going to be a couple, maybe 3 hours. I've got some information here that we need to spend time on, and I think when we do, and I can show you how each little part here and here correlates with each little part here and here, you're going to see how it connects. So, thanks for joining, and please feel free to interject anything you feel.
Connection is hard, you know, just to say. So like Rome, it got built on one day, but it doesn't matter. It got winged and sniffed up in one day. You know?
Yep. So we know the interest on a savings bond is the difference between the purchase price and the redemption value of the bond. What is the redemption value of the bond? But again, in equity, one must first come with equity, and that means you have to come with a remedy. Remedy being the redemption value. You have to state a reasonable value by showing you've thought it out. And like I said earlier, transferring all those titles to the agency and then to the United States, you have to have a certain knowledge of what those are because you're the one that entered them. You're the one that committed to signing all these instruments throughout your life. Now, even though you can't remember them all, you can at least remember most of those agencies and departments you've dealt with and serve them notice to hand over certain records that do pertain to that individuals. You know, the records maintained on individuals, employment records, educational records, tax records, medical records. Those are all part of those government statistics that they maintain. And those are the things you have an interest on that they use in their system to as fiat currency to enter in bonds and service credits. So you you can
I know how
determine
money
that
works
redemption
and how
value.
it got made, but this is complicated for me. But I listen. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know. You're from Denmark. It says Denmark, Andy.
Yeah.
I don't know how exactly it's expressed over there, but the
The
monetary system
currency
is
is the same.
generally the monetary system is
The
going to work.
currency is the same, but it's not valued the same in like gold and shit. But it's all made on, our debt. If we go loan money in the bank, they don't print the money for us.
Right.
The
They
Federal
use
Reserve, that's the only one who can print money, and they make money on our debt. We take or we get money from the bank, and we have to pay back more than it already was. Money that doesn't exist.
right.
And that's how they make money.
They're using a
That's how they
credit
make money.
system through these conversions to do so. That credit record
Also,
makes
yeah,
it seem like there's a larger debt when there's not. Greetings, Joe Cool. How you doing tonight, brother?
yeah,
Welcome aboard.
What up,
numbers.
guys?
Hey, Joe
I
Cool.
didn't. How you doing, man? I didn't catch what you were talking about, so I'm just listening. I just
Well,
hopped
right.
in. I saw you and hopped right up.
Yeah, right now we're going through some certain definitions and stuff from the Treasury Direct system and how they're the transfer agent that's supposed to be doing the buying, transferring, and redeeming of certain types of bonds and stuff. And so if that's true, as an automated clearinghouse, they're the ones that settle these things. That's specifically what a clearinghouse does is it settles things. And that's what equity is.
Okay.
It's a settlement. So if you want equity, you
Yeah,
must first
yeah,
come with equity. And that means you're the one that's
yeah.
supposed to come with the remedy. That remedy is knowing that difference in the values by knowing your interest on those bonds.
Okay.
Okay? Your equitable interest. Now the next one goes to Legacy Treasury Direct System is a non-interest based book entry system maintained by
Mhm.
Treasury since 1986 for holding and conducting permitted transactions in marketable Treasury securities directly with Treasury as book entry products. The legal guardian. This would be like the same issue with the custodian. It's not me myself that established the account, but somebody else that does so for another. Legal guardian of a minor or incompetent person refers to the court appointed or otherwise qualified person, regardless of title. So
Are
it's
you very
all,
rich? Do you have any money?
say what?
Just a question. Do you have any money, or why you not worrying? Why do you want to learn about this? Like you're old, and you're not a banker, and I don't know. Like, did you just win in lotto? What is
What
this?
No,
It's just
no, no.
what is the importance
not
of
being
this lesson?
happy
Is what
or
he's
angry.
asking.
Well, yeah, he's
You're
asking
learning.
me.
You're not like being
I'm
angry
with him.
at
This
this.
is over my head. I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure you have a angle.
Well, absolutely. We're talking about redemption, right?
I don't know what you guys
Redemption.
are talking about. Oh, you're talking to
I
him.
don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what the title of the thing says. Says trust funds and redemption.
But do you have
Why are
any
we talking?
funds? Who cares about that?
Why are we
You
talking
get
about
rich.
trust funds?
You don't care. So you
Yeah,
don't
why are we
care
talking
about
about?
redemption. So you don't care about
No,
redemption.
Isn't
no.
that
Why
a
not?
better way? Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Why not? You don't believe in forgiveness and repentance and all
Yes,
that, or
only God can judge me, and I will get everything from Him if He want me to go that path. He will give me
so
and
you
help me through my life
so
and show me what I'm supposed to do.
so you
Hopefully,
don't so you don't
I'll figure it
accept
out.
the fact so you don't accept the fact
I
that a
don't
brother
accept
might
credit.
so
I
you
don't
don't
accept doubt or debt. Sorry. Yes.
okay so you don't accept the fact that a brother can come along and redeem you himself. You'll only
I
accept
know that,
redemption.
but no one can come and judge me. And if you
No,
want to
I'm
fuck
not
me up,
saying I'm
yeah,
not. No. I didn't say judge you. I didn't say judge you.
no,
I'm
but you
talking
want to take
about
my money and say you are now
no,
in debt. You lost
no,
your
no,
business.
No, I'm
Okay.
asking about the redemption aspect. Do you believe that
I don't know
God
what
is
that
the only one that can redeem you?
I don't know what the redeem means for real. What do you explain?
Well, if you are bound into debt,
Yes.
you can redeem yourself. A brother
No, I
can come
cannot.
along and buy you out of that debt, or you can
No,
be
they
redeemed by
cannot.
God, right?
Yes, I could do that. And that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm not gonna care about the debt. If people fuck me up, I've seen so many people they get fucked up by the worst of the worst. And I'm
Okay,
not
so
gonna
those
tell you the story, but it's
okay, so
crazy, bro. Like they get fucked
okay,
by
so
anybody.
okay, so those that have found themselves buying themselves into debt don't deserve to learn how to get themselves out of debt?
Listen, if they are in debt, they should start understand life. There's something that's called money. You know what money is? That's what I just told you. It's numbers. They don't give you the money in cash. They don't print that money and give you it. But the trick is you are making money for them because you're paying back some money
I don't make
that they
money.
didn't exist.
I don't make money for them.
But you made money for them, money that didn't exist for them.
Oh yeah,
But
in the
suddenly you
past
gave
I
them back
have.
money that
In,
actually
in
existed.
the past I have, but since then I've
Yeah,
learned how not to do that,
oh,
and that's why I'm showing this.
good,
Is because when
good,
you
good.
realize what's going on, you quit
Yeah,
doing
I
this.
know what's going on, and I don't have to care about it because I don't give a fuck about money and
Oh,
materialism. I care about
so
spiritualism. Not what's in front of me, not what over me, not
okay.
what behind me or to the
Well,
side.
we care.
I don't give a fuck about that.
Well, we care
It's in
about spiritual.
inside.
Listen. You got to let me talk because we
Mhm.
talk about spiritualism here too, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
showing people this stuff because this is the thing that's convoluted their spiritualism. When you talk about redemption in this venue, they're talking about making things equal again, and that's that form of equity is a form of equality, and you have to even the score. You have to settle things out. That's what this is
Uh-huh.
all about. And if you think that you're going to go around posing that you owe a debt, the only way that you can redeem any of those debts seems to be through these people. So anybody posing a debt that can be redeemed through the courts is making a false redemption claim. I can't redeem that debt through the courts, as it says only here. These guys are the ones responsible for those buys, trades, and exchanges, transfers, not me.
Okay.
So you understand that the redemption
No, I don't
process happens through
understand.
knowledge.
I know. I know. I don't believe I know.
And
I
how
don't
do
want to
you?
understand.
And
I
how
think I
did you
already
come to?
know. Listen, it's
eh,
like listen to a monkey speaking. You are alphabetic.
No, we don't play that here, brother. Don't tell me.
I'm
Listen,
joking.
Monty speaking. This is my platform. Don't fucking keep on muting yourself. We're talking about redemption, and I did say we are talking about spirituality. I'm trying to show here their process of redemption happens through one person. The spiritual process of redemption for mankind happens through God, through their fellow man, or through themselves. They don't need the treasury for redemption. So anything that truly needs to be redeemed, anybody that's selling you something, sending you that bullshit in the mail, I believe firmly it's supposed to be going through the treasury to have it settled. Otherwise, it continues to float on as a debt instrument, having not been settled, but being resold time and again. Same thing with the spiritual redemption. You come along and you have the ability to redeem your brother by buying off his debts. He has the ability through self-servitude to buy himself out of those debts. That's the parable of the prodigal son. Or you can allow God to redeem you, and that is being able to learn how that system works so you don't influence, like you were talking about, Denmark. that you don't become a part of instigating that system to keep taking advantage of people.
Okay,
I
you're talking
understand
about
that.
systems. I
Yes.
don't care about your system, brother. I don't care about it. I'm not gonna be a part of it because I understand this system. I understand
So let
this
me ask you.
gold. You want us to win gold. You want us
No,
to
I didn't.
compete.
No, I've never said that. I've never said
Okay.
that. That's your
No, you
presumption.
didn't say that. I'm telling you, brother. This is what it's about. It's a fight. It's a war, but you don't have to fight this war.
Then I think we're on the
Okay?
same side. Then I think we're on the same side.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
think so. Too. Absolutely.
Okay.
All good.
So so the thing about trying to teach this stuff is so people can see how they use these legal forums against them, that they don't have to buy into this. Okay? Education itself and the benefit of knowing what's going on. You yourself said you know. How did you know except through a process of learning it? So
That's really right. Because if you know, it's good to know. Okay? You have to eat healthy, don't smoke. That's good to know. But if you
yeah.
do it and you know it, that's the worst thing. It's better to do it than not knowing it. That's the real life hack. Have a balance in this shit, in the life with mostly everything. That's a life hack. Not this laws of money and laws of this. It's
Well,
fuck that, bro.
the laws of
But you're
money and
gonna get
stuff. The laws of money, as you're talking about here, as we're talking about
for
here,
what is money?
it's these.
I
No, it's
just told
not.
you money
No,
doesn't exist.
no,
Doesn't exist. It's dead.
money is not money. There are different categories of money, and so we have to stipulate.
Currency. Yeah, of course.
Well, you have fiat money, which is the currency
Yeah,
of
but no,
paper, or you have the
correct.
currency of commodity money, which is the transfer of goods.
Uh-huh.
I trade my goods, a dozen of eggs, for the neighbor's goods, a loaf of bread. That's the transfer of a commodity known as commodity money, commodity trades. Whereas if I make fiat money or fiat trades, I'm merely trading the paperwork that those other exchanges of commodities are dependent upon for those transfers. I'm either dealing directly in the commodity or in the paperwork of the commodity. One's just the paperwork, and that's that fiat currency. That's that legal
Can
title.
you just say to the guy in the chat, yes, I'm not here to preach. I'm here to listen and maybe learn some good things. I would love to teach from you guys. You are the oldest, and I respect that. And I'm gonna teach you as the younger, as I will brother.
I
Okay,
hope
I'm
so
gonna
because
call
you
you
come up.
bro, no matter how old you are.
Well, I hope so because I come up here with the intent of helping others learn, and in
I see
return
you, bro.
expecting to learn
I see
myself.
you.
At the same
Yes,
time,
yes,
you asked a kind of offensive question as to my age and what is my interest in banking and buying and selling and all this. My
No,
interest is because I have been involved in it all my life, and I quit it all 8 years ago to do my research in this and
I
show the younger
understand. But you
generation how to
learn it.
navigate it,
You learn it very simple and stupid.
how to navigate it without it becoming to their detriment. Go ahead.
Okay,
I
but
think
listen,
that
my friends, you work for J.P. Morgan. You worked in the in New York, and they go out of it and they go back to Denmark because now they learn it's all about debt. They generate money that doesn't exist, and it's only a few banks like the Federal Reserve and all that. It's not good, man. They make
Exactly.
your money from you, sweat and tears and blood,
Yeah,
and it's not
and
fair.
we can talk about gold. We
your
really
mic's
Gold.
fucked, bro.
you covered your mic,
It's,
brother.
it's
What is
back. It's
that?
back.
What do you think to do that? What do you
Well,
think
yeah.
to do that?
Well, that's why we're going over this to show people
Yes,
there are many
and you should,
easier ways
and
than
it's
having to
great.
deal with these
You're bloody.
fraudsters. And yeah,
It's good
I
for
think we're
doing
on
that.
the same page. So
Yes,
let me continue.
absolutely. Yes, yes.
The legal guardian. Oops. The legal guardian of a minor or incompetent person refers to a court-appointed or otherwise qualified person, regardless of title, who is legally authorized to act for the minor or incompetent individual. Now, we have to understand when it says who is legally authorized, it does not say who is lawfully appointed or assigned. There is a distinct difference. This is a presumption that by the capacity of the agency or office that they fill, that they qualify with or without a signature. No, that's not true. Can't do that. This is a presumption. Legal representative refers to a court-appointed, otherwise qualified. This otherwise qualified, regardless of title, who is legally authorized to manage and settle the estate of a decedent. There are certain qualifications when it comes to these very representatives. It never will talk about the living soul. It's about managing and being legally authorized to manage and settle the estate of a decedent.
This is deep. Like in the chat also, they're talking deep, and I don't think they can actually balance these words. You know what words is, and then these words are just like out of my world, first of all. But what you guys talking about is something you will never get to use. We know which, and like the guy in the chat, he's saying, yeah, if you have bitcoins, you can control the market, and you're gonna be witch, but you have to be the witches. And nobody, what you do, no matter where you are and who you are, you're not gonna be the witches. That's
And
what the devil wants you to believe.
And that's not what we're trying to profess. Again, I'm not sitting here trying to teach these guys how to use this. I'm trying to teach them the terms and stuff that are being used so they can discern
But
for
you're
themselves.
From the devil. You will.
So that they can discern for themselves when they come across this kind of grammar what it really is, and to stay away from it. Because if you're not legally competent, then why would the legal field have any authority over you?
Precisely. It's true.
So when they legally incompetent means the court has declared an individual to be incapable of handling his or her business affairs. Well, that's great because I don't have a business. We are in agree.
Okay.
Okay. The term includes an executor and an administrator. Okay, the legally incompetent means the court has declared an individual to be incapable of handling his or her business affairs. Great, we're in agreement because I don't have a business. You show me my business records and I'll suck your cock.
I don't think that's what they meant. I don't think that's what they meant.
That's what it's confined to. That's what it's confined to.
Handle your business. Are you sure it means something other than what I think it means?
Absolutely.
The average person just think it means handle your affairs. It doesn't mean you fucking literally handle your work.
So if you're a porn star, then it would literally mean your sex affairs, right?
I guess if you're a porn star, it could mean many things. Handle your business could mean fucking paying your fucking bills. It can mean
if I'm telling you I have no business, and the onus of probandi is on you to prove that I do have a business, and you can't, then have you not made a false claim?
Along the lines of what you're saying, but I'm saying business can be interpreted to mean many things. And you're saying it's a business. Motherfucker, if I tell a nigga, go handle your business, and he uses your argument, Joe, you said business, therefore you make corporation. No.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Business affairs as to what? The individual? Show me the records maintained on the individual. I'll tell you. And I already tell you, there are no licenses. He's not in good standing. He does not conduct business. There are no banking records for the last 8 years. Would you like to argue it some more?
I'm not even arguing. I have no idea what you're talking about or who he is. I have no idea what you're even talking about.
The guy that they're legally incompetent means a court has declared an individual.
Okay, I got that part.
To be incapable of handling his or her business affairs. So when it comes to business affairs,
let me see if it said business affairs. I just heard business. All right, business
Smoking
affairs.
John.
Right.
All right,
So
I wouldn't
business,
have put up that argument if I saw business affairs.
right. And those business
Yes,
affairs as they relate to the individual. Okay.
How
All right,
how
go
much are
ahead.
you in debt for the
So
swimming
where are my
pool and the
business
car?
records? You say I'm an incompetent, I'm legally incompetent because I'm incapable of handling my
You're like a
business
monkey.
affairs. First of all, you have to qualify that I have a business to claim
I'm
that I'm
not sure. What
incapable.
about
Okay.
You
what
have
about
to qualify.
paying your
You cannot
bills?
say you
Two
cannot
business.
say that a man is incapable of handling his business affairs
Yeah,
if he has no
I cannot
business.
judge you, but I
I'm
can
not
bid
sure. I'm
judge
still
you.
want to argue some
I
more.
can
What if it's
I
paying
can
his
see and look.
bills? Wouldn't that be considered business affairs?
No, that's a
No.
matter of private obligation to make a certain transfer, redemption, or purchase.
So when they say business affairs, they couldn't. Let me see what the fuck somebody's definition of business affairs. If it
I'm not
must
the
be
part
business.
I'm not a party involved in the contract directly. I am the end user, the recipient, the
You
one
don't
that's
use
supposed
it.
to receive the
You are
benefit.
you are not use. You take
It,
you take and you take and you take and you throw out.
no.
Yeah,
Again, there you go,
and you
blanket
know that.
statement. Again, there you go, making a
Yeah,
blanket statement.
you don't have to
I'm gonna
have
kick you. I'm gonna kick you here pretty soon if you don't stop those blanket statements saying you. Okay? I didn't do anything, and you making a claim that I did has to stop.
business affairs can also include assets and liabilities. So you don't have to have the business to have assets.
Okay, so now show me my assets.
Okay, but that's different than you must own a business. That argument doesn't hold
Okay,
anymore.
so show me my assets and how they're involved in any kind of business affairs.
Your assets, according to this, are business affairs. Assets,
Okay, so what is my assets?
liabilities, and your
What are
home,
my assets? I
your
don't have a
home,
home.
your
I don't have a home, so I don't have an asset, and therefore there's no liability.
assets. Well, if you have no assets, you have a great argument. I don't know if that's true.
Absolutely.
And
If I
liabilities.
do not claim ownership of assets,
Yeah, I think you got an
then I'm only
argument.
claiming possession and use.
I have 2 APS companies, and yes, I do with other people, and nobody is. If somebody fuck it up, I can sell it for a cent to the other one, and I can buy it from a cent if you fuck it up.
I don't
And
know
it's
why you
true.
told us
But
that.
we have companies car, firma car, and everything, the tools and all that. But yeah,
I'm really blown. I
they,
don't understand either one of you cats.
All right. Well, anyway,
you know that
to
the
prevent it from
assets is
getting
the car and the tools. But if you do the work, yes, it's good, but you don't have to do it.
Okay.
You can
again,
just put a radio in that house where you're gonna go work. Put a radio, and then you can say you worked there all week.
All right. I want to give you an earnest attempt to understand what you're saying. Assume I have no idea what you're saying. Please keep it concise and start from the beginning.
Yes,
Because you're
I
talking about
work.
tools and a radio. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I pull down buildings, and I'm a blacksmith and all that.
Great to know.
And yeah,
Okay,
if
what
we
was you were
want,
making a point, or you were just telling me about
some people
what you
want
like
me
your
to do
hobbies are.
black money, so I don't pay tax. So I just go to a old woman. She say you have to build this wall in my garage, and we use 2 months on it. Put a radio in there, and we use maybe 3 days work, and we got 2 months work because we put a radio.
Isn't that unscrupulous?
I don't care. It's a joke, but imagine
Oh
what
my
is this
God.
radio doing? That's the real thing. A radio, bro. So why you talking about
You don't understand either, Pero. I don't understand
it's
yeah,
a radio? You know, a boom
Maybe you can
blaster.
I don't
interpret
understand.
it.
Yeah, I don't
Bomb
understand
blaster.
what you're trying. Yeah, I don't understand what you're trying to present either, brother. And like I said,
No.
we're trying to stay on topic here, and this is
Yeah,
kind of
and then I'm trying to
distracting.
relate
You're
it to the
talking,
topic. That's really
and
difficult.
you're reading letters in a website. But man, the man who's actually out there building, you wouldn't understand how bad it is everywhere, even in Denmark. But I understand about money. I know about my own company and how it works. You know.
And so you're trying to say I'm doing something wrong or what? Because I still
Yeah,
don't.
how does that relate
I'm
to
not
the
a, I'm
topic
not a
at
thief.
hand?
I'm not a liar.
How does
I'm not
that
a thief.
relate
I'm
to
not
the topic at hand? Is
So
there
you're
a specific way?
well. Wait a minute. You just said you're not a thief and you're not a liar. So are you impressing
no,
upon others that I'm a thief and I'm a liar? Because I still don't understand
no,
what you're saying.
no, 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 no. I'm just saying. When you do work in this world, you can do life hacks, and I know about life hacks.
I think he
Okay,
just want to brag a bit.
and that's a balance. That's a balance. You gotta understand yourself. But
Okay,
saying
then
like
explain.
you're gonna change the system
No, I
with
don't want to
this. No,
change.
I'm not gonna change the
No,
system.
I never.
No, I'm
Again,
not saying you are, and I don't want either. But I understand this shit, and I understand what you're saying. Maybe not in English and in your English website, but you're
well,
not gonna get smarter from this because what you're reading right now, it's a war.
That was a little slight. You're not going to get smarter from this. That was a slight.
absolutely. I take that as a dig, saying that what I'm doing is worthless
A
because
waste of time.
because it's not going to help anybody.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No. And the rich
Are
people are
we
gonna use
correct?
it against you
Well,
every
you would
time.
have to you would have to show how
You have
you would
other
have
people
to.
to read this shit and say, oh, you have to do this to get around the law and make more money. So we don't make more money by reading
No,
this.
again, there you go, trying to say that I'm one
Never,
of those people trying to show people how you do something other than this to get around the
never,
law
no.
and make more
No, I
money.
guess not.
Otherwise, you wouldn't make
No.
those kind of statements.
You're very smart and very humble to sit here and show this and actually try understanding
You
something
can't have it both
that
ways,
nobody
man.
really understands. But trust me, brother, I know about this. I'm not a lawyer, but I know about this and how
Oh,
this system works over here.
and so you know so much about this, you're going to tell me that it's worthless, that you've already been through this.
Yes, absolutely, it's word, and you're not gonna get rich from these words. You cannot. It's on there already,
Hold on.
so you can show us what they put down on this website, but
Was
we're
the
gonna use
object
it.
of you teaching us this to get rich, Pero?
They made these laws. You see,
Oh, absolutely. That's why I've been doing it
363
for 8 years and never
and
asked
some
a dime from anybody
American
except if you
law.
want to donate. Here's a PayPal link. Send anything you want. I really don't care.
I
Yeah,
have
I'm
no
not so
PayPal.
sure,
It's
Denmark
illegal.
Ryan, I think your name is, that the purpose
PayPal
of
is
him teaching.
illegal.
Hold on, excuse me. I'm not so sure that the purpose of him teaching this is so he can teach me or us how to get
No,
rich. Your statement of
no.
that you're not going to get rich doing this may not even apply.
Okay.
All right.
But we are not rich, so why should we understand it? We should go and fish and talk about nature.
That's what I assumed, Pero, from the
Okay.
beginning when he first opened
Okay.
his
Let's
mouth,
go.
that he was just
Let's.
saying he'd rather talk about other things. He just did it
Yeah.
clumsily.
Yeah. And so if you want to go talk about those things, go ahead and talk about those. For now, we're discussing things that show people how unimportant it is to put a signature to a piece of paper because they
Yes.
already have an obligation that they're supposed to provide, and that does not befall me. I am not legally competent. In fact, you can prove that I am legally incompetent. I don't handle business affairs because it ain't none of your business, and therefore you ain't got no record of it.
So does the court the court gets to appoint no one because they only appoint someone for business affairs, so they don't get to appoint anyone. And you're
And,
incompetent. So all right,
and
all
they
right. I
and they
see
have
where
to
you're
have
going.
and they have to have a list of assets to prove that you have something to support the liability of holding
Right.
that position.
Yeah.
I'm
No, you
sorry, I
don't.
don't.
No, that's true. That's not true. Not true.
Yes, yes.
You don't know the real world. You don't know the
Can you?
streets. You don't
Oh,
Oh,
know
be
what
can you
gold
nice.
is.
convict?
Silver.
Can you convict an idiot? No, you cannot.
Okay, prove me wrong. I have gold and silver. It's worth more than everything
Oh,
that you
really?
have in cash, in paper.
Really?
In paper.
Really?
You don't have more
Your
paper
gold
than me, boy.
and silver is worth more than my life?
Your
More
life.
than
What do you
your
mean?
morals?
More than your paper, I say. I didn't say
No,
Okay.
anything
you
about
said
your life.
anything. You said
Even more.
anything. You said anything.
No,
Now, if gold is
I said
not more
anything on your
important,
paper.
if gold is
No,
not
I
more important than my life, what makes you think that a piece of paper
didn't say that.
would
I
hold
don't
more
mean that.
importance
I
than
don't
anything in
mean
my
that.
life?
I don't mean that. Okay? If I put it up like that, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it's more worth than your life or mine life
As you made
or
it's more
anybody's
worth
life.
than fiat
But
currency.
that's what they do.
Don't you
That's
use
what they
paper?
actually
Don't
do.
you use?
And now you're
Don't you
putting
use paper?
something
Don't
on
you
me
use
that
paper?
you know they're doing to us. That's crazy, man.
Don't you know that you use paper to buy gold? Is
No, I
that
don't.
not the value of paper? Is that you can
I
buy
bought
gold
all
with
my
it?
gold with Bitcoin. I bought all my gold with Bitcoins.
With what?
For real.
Bitcoin?
With
His
Bitcoin.
argument still
Okay.
holds. You can
Yeah.
buy gold with paper. The argument still holds.
Yeah.
It's
And
still the same.
paper and paper doesn't really hold the value. Same with Bitcoin. You can buy gold with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin really doesn't hold the value. What holds the value? The asset itself.
What asset?
So is
Land.
anything I own that I don't want to exchange for any reason, any of your business, whether you want to call it an asset or not, anything that I use in my life, is it anybody else's right to call it anything for their
You
use?
don't use it. You don't use any of it. You are too unhappy with it all. And that's coming down from here, up here. You gotta start. Be happy with your family.
There you go. There you go. You're using this you thing as if though it's a singular pointed to me or the other guys on the
Yeah,
panel together,
because you're the only
as if
one
though
not come on.
as if
So
as
you have
if
a
though
come
you
on. But
as if though you know me. Do you know me, brother?
yeah, I know. No, I'm not. I know what you mean. I'm drunk. I'm not sitting here judging you, and I know that sounds like it. I'm the idiot.
Okay.
I take
Well,
it on me. I'm sorry.
well, yeah. You said it perfectly. You're drunk, and you can't
Yeah.
hold a reasonable conversation. So we're done with you. I don't care about your Denmark accent or anything like that. But the fact that you admitted you're drunk and you can't, and proven that you can't hold a reasonable conversation yet, maybe try again when you're sober.
Yeah, he was just wanting to brag about how smart he is in the businesses he owned. That's all he wanted to do it.
And I'm sorry it took so long, guys. You guys know I'm generally better than that. I kick them quick. But I just want to give an example that if you let them go, they're going to keep going.
I like that you were patient, bro. I have no issue with it. Everything happened for a reason.
I'm blessed. Anyway, we go on to this linked account. Means an account that is a separate account from your primary account, but connected to your primary account. And you use your primary account as a portal to open and access the linked account. Again, just like we talked before. Marketable treasury security refers to a treasury bill, note, or bond that is negotiable and transferable. That billing statement that you get that has that coupon that you can clip off. That coupon is right in there with those obligations and other securities of the United States, which includes those coupons. That is a marketable treasury security that you can surrender to the Treasury Direct for settlement in the automated clearinghouse process of redemption for lawful money. That is and may be bought and sold in secondary markets. Minor means an individual under the age of 18, and the term minor is also used to refer to an individual who has attained the age of 18 years but has not yet taken control of the securities contained in his or her minor account. Again, I believe that minor account to be the Social Security account that you're supposed to take control of by gathering up all those securities at the state level that you entered in throughout your life, transfer them, expenses incidental to transfer title to the United States so that they can handle them through the Treasury Department, or Department of the Treasury, excuse me, and the Treasury Direct Account as an automated clearing process for that set of securities. That's taking that legal entity control. Now that you're age of majority, you're going to settle the accounts. Most people don't do that. And again, that's if you feel they need to do this. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying those seeking a process, if there's any process, this is plain writing. Minor account means an account that a custodian controls on behalf of a minor that is linked to the custodian's primary account. That social security number is an account number granted in the name of Keith Little for you to use as a minor and is linked to the custodian's primary account. B, social security account. Primary account means the account that you establish when you first open your Treasury Direct account. Okay? Minor account means an account that a custodian controls on behalf of a minor that is linked to the custodian's primary account, and the non-converting co-owner is the co-owner who does not participate in the transaction to convert a definitive savings bond to a book entry bond.
This is way over my head. The first thing you said, the so-and-so is the minor account is attached to the custodian. I'm forgetting, you threw like 5 phrases in there. I'm not sure.
Right.
Custodian, was it?
Right. The minor account means an account that a custodian controls.
Who's the custodian? If the minor account is your social security number, who's the custodian?
It'd be the Social Security.
That's the Social Security office?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And then you went on to name and then they're attached to another person.
Right. The custodian's primary account. The primary account is that federal account that funds everything. The state can't get anything except as a secondary account.
I think I'm with you. And you might have mentioned something after that, but at least I think I'm understanding where you're going and what you're saying.
Well, the state is the one, as a custodian, managing everything on behalf of the minor because he's legally incompetent because of his age, or he hasn't come forth to show that he's capable of managing his business affairs and therefore is deemed unable to. That's why the Social Security is still managing it.
What other accounts would they be having of yours?
Education accounts, medical accounts, employment accounts, tax accounts, bank accounts. Okay. They're all connected because you use the Social Security account to get all of those things. Online means use of the internet. And here we go with, this is going to be again, one of those things with those multiple uses of the different terms is going to try to confuse you. I'm going to try to hold everybody together with this. It says owner, when referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration of a security held in the single owner form of the registration, the first individual named on a security held in the owner with beneficiary form of registration, the first individual named on a security held in a primary owner with secondary owner form of registration. See what's going on there? Told you got a primary owner and a secondary owner. There's primary owner with secondary owner form of registration. Or either individual named on a converted savings bond held in the co-owner form of registration. Not the non-converter co-owner, but the co-owner. When referring to a minor linked account, the owner is the minor. When referring to an entity, the owner is the entity. So when it's talking about those accounts, the owner is the minor. So the minor can come forth at age of majority as the owner, transfer that, and create the entity account, which is the primary account. So as the individual becomes age of majority and deemed competent, now there's the creation of the entity account. That individual is no longer a record. It's removed from the public, and now you maintain a private entity account, a direct contract with the Treasury. By having your own contract with the Treasury instead of a secondary contract at the state level through Social Security. Payroll savings plan is a method of the purchase of savings bonds using periodic ACH credits from your employer or financial institution to
Trevor, let me
purchase.
get out of here, man. Later.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping up, Joe. People get bored with this kind of stuff, but I told you I'm going to have to spend some time doing it. And again, if you guys have any questions, I know you might get bored and stuff, come to me privately and ask me specific questions.
We're not bored. This is good.
I hope not. I hope there's people that are like-minded and want to go through this and dig through this and become aware of what's actually being said. Because hopefully I'm pointing out to you where none of this stuff really applies to you. But if you want to use it, there's a certain way to use it. And generally, it's already been being used that way by the other party. So now it's just a matter of taking over and using it the same way. Just like Trump said, when Hillary said, well, how come, if you know there's tax loopholes, how come you're using them? He says, because you and your pals are using them too. If you wanted to get rid of them, you were already in the position to regulate them out, but you didn't because you use them too. Okay? Owner, when referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration, blah, blah, blah. The owner is the entity. So we have the owner is the entity after he becomes age of majority because he acknowledges it and establishes a primary account in his own name. And that account is not held in his name by somebody else, a third party. Payroll savings plan is a method for purchase of savings bonds using ACH or periodic automatic clearinghouse credits from your employer. Now we see credits instead of money and all that. Now we're seeing credits. You see where the credits come from? Once there's a settlement, everybody gets paid off. If you're one of those persons that desires a payment or is required a payment, there's an establishment of credits in the electronic form that then can be issued in paper form directly to you through foreign currency such as money orders and checks, or that you can extend as a form of credit in replacement in like kind of exchanges of bills as credits instead of foreign currency such as money orders and checks. You can now use an extension of credit by writing it right into those contracts. Customer agrees to make third-party payments so long as it's understood that credit is given to the customer's account. That is because customer is going to give credits from his account with equal consideration that credits be given back to his account. Just like I said with the battery charger earlier. You're going to charge it up. They're going to have a system of currency that's going to flow and run as long as they need it to or want it to or does. And then you get your charger back. And you can charge their car up as much as you need until they get it figured out to maintain their own charge. Until their cup welleth over and they can start helping others charge up their cars. Payroll savings plans is a method for the purchase of savings bonds using periodic ACH credits from your employer or financial institution to purchase a payroll 0% certificate of indebtedness. 2, purchase a payroll 0% certificate of indebtedness until a sufficient amount of payroll 0% certificate of indebtedness is accumulated to enable the purchase of savings bonds in an amount, series, and registration that you previously selected using functionality in the Treasury Direct account. So now it's telling us that's where the functionality of these purchases are, just like it's the same for the functionality of the redemption. Okay? Person means an individual or an entity. So again, like I said, that owner is also an entity who is either of age of majority, or that person who is age of majority now, and instead of being a minor or an individual is now an entity. Primary account means the account you establish. So therefore, primary owner means the first person named in the registration of a security held in Treasury Direct. John Doe with Joseph Doe. In this example, John Doe is the primary owner. So just like I suggested earlier, is the Treasury Direct already got certain securities in the name of your mom or dad, or grandma and grandpa perhaps? If they do, that would likely be abandoned property of probated estates that needs to be claimed, and you can make that claim. But only if they would show record of it. Again, as it goes to those business affairs, they would show that they have record of those business affairs. That's the asset. Okay? Principal amount means the amount of the original investment, not the redemption value. Principal amount does not include any interest earned, which the redemption value does. Recipient, like I mentioned earlier, means the person to whom a gift is given. In other words, the one who is supposed to receive the intended benefit or the gift. Redemption of a savings bond refers to the payment of principal and interest at final maturity, or prior to final maturity at the option of the owner. The owner may redeem all principal and interest, or a portion of the principal and a proportionate amount of interest. The owner may redeem. And I'm suggesting that that's all you do as claim of owner, is to redeem the amount owed to any person, making all parties whole, so that no person shall be held liable in any court, and the debt is no longer viable. It is settled. It is final. It is mature. It is if though it's mature. It is no longer valid. It is settled. Redemption value, like I was talking about earlier, that certificate may be purchased for $25, but it may have a redemption value, means principal plus accrued interest. And it is the accrual method of accounting, and therefore you go to all those accrual records, bank accounts, court records, educational records where you have lunches and all of it. Yeah, anything that cost anything, where the cost was taxed to the other party, to a party that it shouldn't have been taxed to. And they paid a cash item called cash accounting, single ledgering. Redemption value means principal plus accrued interest of a bond, or a portion of principal plus a proportionate amount of accrued interest on the bond as of the date of redemption. So you got a bond that's supposed to mature in 20 years for $250,000, the interest, blah, blah, blah. But you want to cash it out at 10 years, so it's only supposed to accrue so much interest at that time. You cannot go above and beyond that interest. You can only do the proportionate amount. Registration or registered means that the name and taxpayer identification numbers And I'll let you know that the Social Security number is, in fact, a taxpayer identification number, so it is a taxing issue. Again, that secondary account to the primary account that they collect those Social Securities and FICA fees from, as well as other taxes. Registration or registered means the name and taxpayer identification numbers, TIN, of the persons named on a security are maintained on our records. The exposed that SS5 application held by the Social Security Administration in a secondary account claiming to be a security would fit something like that. I mean, you did register. For Medicare on that system, Medicare or Medicaid services, both, one or the other, depending on your career choices and your education. Reinvestment means using the redemption proceeds of a maturing marketable security to purchase a new marketable security of the same type and term, using the automatic reinvestment option available in Treasury Direct. Again, does that not sound like circulating credit, like we discussed earlier? A revolving credit, revolving accounting. The secondary owner means the second person named in the registration of a book entry security held in Treasury Direct. Registered, example, John Doe SSN with Joseph Doe SSN. That birth certificate got mom and dad's name. Security or Treasury security, as used in this part, means an obligation issued by Treasury that may be held in Treasury Direct. Security or Treasury security. That's telling us that a security may be held in Treasury Direct, because they're the ones that offer the automated clearinghouse process for settlement of such securities. Settlement of obligations and other securities of the United States, including those Federal Reserve notes, coupons, stamps, and other representatives of value. Other representatives of value being that redemption value. See? Series EE savings bonds is an accrual type savings bond. Reinvestment means using the redemption proceeds of a maturing marketable security to purchase a new marketable security of the same type and term using automatic reinvestment options, such as Series E savings bonds of the accrual type savings bond, issued either in definitive paper form or in book entry form, that accrues interest on the principal based on rates determined by the Treasury. Asserting a proper accrual type savings bond and accounting method. Series I savings bonds is a savings bond issued either in definitive paper form or in book entry form that accrues interest in accordance with a formula that includes a fixed component and a component indexed to the rate of inflation. So you could technically do it either one. Just depends on what you want to do, I guess, and your knowledge. And again, I'm not saying you should or have to or that I'm going to do any of this. I'm just explaining that if you do, this seems to be the things to follow when doing those things, such as trying to redeem those utility bills and stuff. Signature Guarantee Program means a signature guarantee program established under 17 CFR 24017 AD-15. Now, I'll tell you, this is the commodities exchange. Remember, I was telling you about fiat money or commodity money, and this is where the conversion happens, is the hypothecation of a customer's securities. Okay? Pay attention here. Issued under authority of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, for the purpose of this part, we recognize the Securities Transfer Agents Medallion Program. Stamp. The Stock Exchange's Medallion Program, SEMP, and the New York Stock Exchange, Inc. Medallion Signature Program, and these certifications are acceptable for transfers of securities, but are not acceptable for offline account establishment. Securities Transfer Agents Medallion Program. Acceptable for transfers of securities, but are not acceptable for offline account establishment. What is that 17 CFR? Signature guarantees. Guarantee means a guarantee of the signature of the person endorsing a certificated security, or originating an instruction to transfer ownership of a security, or instructions concerning transfer of securities. So you got a signature of a person endorsing a certificated security, or originating an instruction to transfer ownership of a security, or instructions concerning transfer of securities. So you got the ownership of securities, or the transfer of ownership of securities, or transfer of securities. Was Mom an informant, and what did it do? That long form has a signature of a person known as an informant endorsing a certificated security. So the birth certificate was created from. Acceptance of signature guarantees, a registered transfer agent shall not. A registered transfer agent. Are you a registered transfer agent? Shall not directly or indirectly engage in any activity in connection with a guarantee, including the acceptance or rejection of such guarantee, that results in the inequitable treatment of any eligible guarantor institution or class of institutions.
Well, I'm not a bank teller. I'm not a transfer agent.
Exactly. So does any of this apply to you? If you're not the teller or one of those institutions, the eligible guarantor institution, does this apply to you? This is why I don't give signatures anymore. Transfer agent standards and procedures, all this stuff you got to follow. But if you're not one of those transfer agents, it does not apply. And again, that's that Commodities and Exchange, Securities Exchange Act, where they do those commodities, hypothecation of customer securities. Single owner means the individual named in the registration of a book entry treasury security or a converted savings bond without a beneficiary secondary co-owner or secondary owner or co-owner. Single owner means the individual named in the registration of a book entry treasury security or a converted savings bond without a beneficiary, secondary owner, or co-owner. Social Security account number or Social Security number means the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service by an individual. Now, if you're giving a Social Security number and they ask you for that signature on that form, Social Security number, or excuse me, Social Security account number or Social Security number means the identifying number. This is defining the number. It's the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service by an individual. SS number or SSN, Social Security number, is composed of 9 digits separated by 2 hyphens. Okay? That is the actual construction of a Social Security number. It is 9 digits separated by 2 hyphens, and therefore it is 11 characters and not just simply 9 digits. It is 9 digits specifically separated by 2 hyphens.
9/11.
Imagine that, huh? And it is the taxpayer identification number. And it's the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service. So on that employment application, you put the Social Security number, don't you? Is that a document submitted to the Internal Revenue Service? I mean, you are intending to pay taxes as income taxes, and therefore you go ahead and make a voluntary agreement with the employer to be a that's what taxpayer identification number means the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service. So whether they want to call it a Social Security number or not, it still remains, again, confirming and correlating that the Social Security number is a taxpayer identification number. That is an individual Social Security number or an employer identification number, EIN. Both of them. So exchanging one for the other is still a tax identification number. So these people tell you to get rid of your Social Security number, get an EIN, you do better. No, you're still dug into that business affairs of the IRS. Okay? A Social Security number is composed of 9 digits separated by 2 hyphens. And of course, that ties the IRS together with the Social Security Administration along with the Treasury Direct. Okay? Social Security number is composed of 9 digits separated by 2 hyphens. For example, 123-45-6789. An EIN is composed of 9 digits separated by 1 hyphen. For example, 12-345-6789. The hyphens are an essential part of the numbers. So you cannot be commingling with other counts saying, well, that's Social Security number for here. No, you used it as an obligor and identified it as a number with 9 digits without the hyphen. You cannot sit there and say that is the Social Security number because it is not. The Social Security number is the 9 numbers with 9 digits with 2 hyphens. That's 11 characters. It is not the same in regards to adjustum generis. They are distinctly different by their numerical values. Tender means an offer or bid to purchase a marketable treasury security. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. In other words, it is an offer or bid to purchase a marketable treasury security. Did you buy a stamp with that? Is that stamp a marketable treasury security? Did you buy a couch with that? What is the marketable treasury security? Is it the couch or the documentation? Is it the couch or the receipt received in exchange? Cash item? Redeemable in lawful money? I don't know. That's the way it seems to me. Transaction is an action affecting treasury securities or account information. Okay, so now we see the data elements, the account information, the data elements. Transaction is any action affecting treasury securities or account information. Transfer is a transaction to move a security or a portion of a security to or from a Treasury Direct account. Verification means confirming the identity of an online applicant for a Treasury Direct account at account establishment using an online verification service or offline verification. So the offline verification is the security instrument that you can hold in your hand that has the signature of the governor and the state registrar under the Secretary of State, Department of Health and Human Services, Bureau of Vital Statistics, a birth certificate with both of those seals, with your name and your mommy and daddy's names. John Doe and Joseph Doe. Verification service means a public or private service that confirms the identity of an online applicant for a Treasury Direct account at account establishment using information provided by the applicant. This is the imperative part that I want people to understand, is if you're going to be passing these people information, again, like the gentleman pointed out earlier, we don't need this stuff. We really don't. Why are you trying to learn about it? This is one of the points I want to make. If you don't know enough about it, you shouldn't be listening to some guru telling you to do this. If you haven't done your research, once again, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love. All is appreciated. But when it comes down to it, don't believe me, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government, and for crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. I am not telling you to do this. I'm telling you to do your research and discern for yourself whether you comprehend this stuff enough to know to either sign in a certain capacity with certain rights reserved without prejudice, knowing certain contract clauses, indemnifications, hold harmless and all that, disclaimers and copyrights, blah, blah, blah. Or if you just don't sign because you don't know, you're not legally competent, and therefore they can't hold you liable. It's important to understand this stuff so you can use it. And if you can't use it and think you want to try it, I suggest you don't until you do understand how to use it. And even then, be kind of timid about it and make sure you have solid footing first in each and every step along the way after that.
Amen.
Voluntary representative means the person qualified by the Department of Treasury to accept payment or direct distribution of a decedent's securities. Why do you think they want that Social Security number? It's a chain of title to the decedent's securities when your mommies and daddies and grandmas and grandpas all die. They need the birth certificate so that when the death certificate is entered and they have to administrate a probated estate, and at age of majority, a young man comes up and claims that probated estate, he can do so. But if he doesn't, There's still deceased securities sitting there that are being used or moved or just held. I don't know. But this is why we need to investigate and find out. And ask, hey, you got any securities held in these names? And give them your mommy and daddy's name, not your name. My daddy passed on in Illinois, Freeport, Illinois, a number of years back. But I don't know his social security number. All I know is his name. But I was adopted, so those adoption records show me something. I should be able to have access to my own social security number and the adoption records that will tie it to his social security account, and they will say one or another. Again, it has no value to me, so I'm not going to go down that path. But those of you that do, I'm telling you, there's a chain of title somewhere, and you have to figure that out. You can't just go making blatant claims that it's there. You have to find the chain of title. We, us, and our refers to the Bureau of Fiscal Service. And I'm going to be doing a video tomorrow with Word Wizard on the etymology of library and bureau tomorrow. Library and bureau tomorrow. We're going to go over a few things there. It's going to be a good video. So pay attention then. But here now, we, us, and our refers to the Bureau of Fiscal Service. In that, who again, we deal with the Bureau of Fiscal Service, which is the department of which is within the Department of Treasury, and works cohesively with the IRS and Bureau of Fiscal Services to do all the settlements through the automated clearinghouses. The term includes the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary's delegates at the Treasury Department and Bureau of Fiscal Service. The term also includes any fiscal or financial agent we designate to act on behalf of the United States. You and your refers to a Treasury Direct primary account holder. Now here, you and your refers to a Treasury Direct primary account holder. And under 5 U.S.C. 552A, I told you about the individual records maintained on the individuals. And now we're going to look at 20 CFR 402.103, is it? Or 104? No, it's 422. I'm sorry. 422. Let's do 104. Yep, 104. And let's take a look at that first. As we talk about, you or your refers to a Treasury Direct primary account holder. As it relates to that you or your, under 20 CFR 422.104, who can be assigned a Social Security number under employee benefits, Social Security Administration. Definition of you under 20 CFR 422.402 says you means an individual who owes a debt to the United States within the scope of this subpart. And the scope of this subpart, like I said, is Social Security employee benefits. When you get a Social Security account number assigned and receive that card, you are what's known as a Medicare qualified government employee, an individual who owes a debt to the United States as a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent. So let's go back and take a look. That's that you or your, and how it's tied to the Treasury Direct as a primary account holder. 0% certificate of indebtedness is a one-day non-interest bearing security that automatically matures and is rolled over each day until you request that it be redeemed. 0% certificate of indebtedness is a one-day non-interest bearing security that automatically matures and is rolled over each day until you request that it be redeemed. In other words, it matures and rolls over every day in its maturity without interest. So it remains the same. That makes sense, John?
It's getting a lot clearer now, yeah.
Does that sound like that revolving credit?
Yeah, revolvers. They just keep firing away.
Does that not sound like that contract clause that I've been iterating? Customer agrees to make third-party payment so long as it's understood that credit is given to the customer's account. So how do you expect that I'm going to pay for that third-party expense other than by credit if I'm expecting credit to be given in exchange on the other end?
Yeah, that ties it up. Right.
Okay. So let's take a look at the next one, which is 31 CFR 341.8. Payment or redemption during lifetime of owner. Remember, we talked about payable on death earlier as it relates to the decedent. We're talking about payment or redemption during lifetime of owner and not a co-owner with no interest as a custodian or something like that. So, payment or redemption during lifetime of owner. At age 59 and a half or thereafter. I'm coming up. I had my 59th birthday on August 20th of this last year, folks. August, September, October, November, December, January, February 20th. We're coming up on 6 months, 59 and a half. Or thereafter, a retirement plan bond will be redeemable at its current redemption value upon the request of the registered owner. That would be the guy registering it, or a person recognized as entitled to act on his behalf, not the custodian, but the registered owner, provided he is 59 and a half years of age or older. The owner's age will be determined from the date of birth shown on the face of the bond. That means the bond that I provide has to have the birth on it, the date of birth on it. Who is that not the birth certificate? Why would any other bond have the birth date on it? I mean, the check as a foreign currency in the form of a bond doesn't have my birth date on it. A money order wouldn't have my birth date on it. No other document has my birth date on it except when I put it on it, an application, a registration, or the birth certificate. Think about it, folks. Provided, however, that the Secretary of the Treasury reserves the right in any case or class of cases to require proof in the form of a duly certified copy of his birth certificate. And it is certified, and I will show you the envelopes it came in, along with the receipts that came with it from both the county and the state. That the owner has attained the age of 59 and a half years. If such evidence is unavailable, notice they don't ask for anything else. One of the following documents may be furnished in lieu thereof. So even without the birth certificate, you can provide a document in lieu thereof as relates to payment or redemption during lifetime of owner. Church records of birth or baptism. So if you can provide this stuff for payment or redemption during lifetime of owner, the lifetime of owner gets payment or redemption of the probated estate of the decedent that's payable upon death. And since it's not been paid yet, it is payment or redemption during the lifetime of the owner, and the owner is Joseph Doe, that was expected and intended to receive the benefit of the estate so inherited. Hospital birth record or certificate. In the form of a duly certified copy of his birth certificate, or a hospital birth record or certificate, physician's or midwife's birth record, certification of Bible or other family record, military, naturalization, or immigration records, other evidence of probative value. Other evidence of probative value. Why is it probative value? Because there's a decedent somewhere who has, in fact, estate material that's supposed to be passed on to his legacy heir. What do you think? We talked about the Treasury Direct Legacy account earlier. Other evidence of probative value, similar documentary evidence will also be required to support any claim made by an owner that the date of birth shown on his bond is incorrect. This is why people like Ken White on Facebook and stuff go ballistic about that birth date being incorrect. Other evidence of probative value, similar documentary evidence will also be required to support any claim made by an owner that the date of birth shown on his bond is incorrect. I can't say that it's incorrect. The day I was born was this day. The date of birth as shown on the file, or the file record is shown as the birthday, is what they use for their system of recording. So when that happened, I don't know, and the way they recorded it is their way of recording it. So I can't make the accusation that the birth shown on his bond is incorrect. All I can do is say, here's the record. It seems to be correct according to your system of records. Would you mind checking it? Yep, it's correct. That's the point we're at right now. B, prior to age 59.5 years, a retirement plan bond will be paid at its then current redemption value upon a registered owner's request, or by a person recognized to entitle in it prior to his attainment of age 59.5 years upon submission of a physician's statement or other similar evidence showing that the owner has become disabled to such an extent that he's unable to engage in any substantial, gainful activity by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairment, which can be expected to result in death or to be long continued and indefinite duration. Impairment, mental impairment. The mental impairment that I have is not a disability to myself, but a disability of being able to be enforced or forced to participate in something that I now know to be totally voluntary. The following are examples of impairments which would ordinarily be considered as preventing substantial gainful activity. Loss of use of 2 limbs. It may only cost you an arm, but you're still viable and you got to go back to work. But if it starts costing you an arm and a leg, or perhaps 2 legs, or perhaps 2 arms, now you might be disabled. Fucking pathetic. Come on, folks. Certain progressive diseases which have resulted in the physical loss or atrophy of a limb, such as diabetes, multiple sclerosis, or Berger's disease. Diseases of the heart, lungs, or blood vessels, which have resulted in major loss of heart or lung reserve, as evidenced by X-ray, electrocardiogram, or other objective findings, so that despite medical treatment, breathlessness, pain, or fatigue is produced on slight exertion, such as walking several blocks, using public transportation, or doing small chores. Cancer, which is inoperable and progressive, damage to the brain or brain abnormality which has resulted in severe loss of judgment, intellect, orientation, or memory, mental diseases requiring continued institutionalization or constant supervision of the individual, loss or diminution of vision to the extent that the affected individual has a central visual acuity of no better than 2200 in the better eye after best correction, or has a limitation in the field of vision such that the widest diameter of the visual field subtends an angle no greater than 20 degrees. So this would be to blindness, and this would be to tunnel vision. Permanent and total loss of speech. You can just stop talking. Just shut the fuck up. Total deafness, uncorrectable by a hearing aid. In any case coming under the provisions of this paragraph, the evidence referred to above must be submitted to the Bureau of Fiscal Service Division of Transactions and Rulings, Parkersburg, West Virginia, for approval before any bonds may be paid. If after review of the evidence, the Secretary of Treasury is satisfied that the owner's disability has been established, a letter will be furnished authorizing payment of his retirement plan bonds. This letter must be presented each time any of the owner's bonds are submitted for payment to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or to the Bureau of Fiscal Services. So we find that we can present this letter must be presented each time any of the owner's bonds are submitted for payment to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or to the Bureau of Fiscal Services. Saying that we can do it to the Treasury Direct here, Federal Reserve Bank or branch, or the Bureau of Fiscal Services. Okay? They're all operating under that same ACH, Automated Clearinghouse. Request for payment by owner. When redemption of any retirement plan bond is desired by the registered owner under paragraph A of this section, it should be presented with the request for payment on the back of the bond, signed and duly certified to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or to the Bureau of Fiscal Services, Securities Transaction Branch, Washington, D.C. 20226, or Bureau of Fiscal Service, Division of Transactions and Rulings, Parkersburg, West Virginia 26101. If payment is requested under paragraph B of this section, the letter described therein should accompany the bond. Okay? And that's request for payment by owner. Request for payment by person other than owner when redemption of any retirement plan bond is desired by the legal guardian, committee conservator, or similar representative of the owner's estate. Of the owner's estate, not the decedent's estate, the owner's estate. Under paragraph A of this section, it should be presented with the request signed as described below to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or to the Bureau of Fiscal Services. So in this case, when there's an owner's estate and there's a committee conservator or similar representative, legal guardian or something, it's because somebody received a portion of an estate as an heir, but they were legally incompetent as a minor. And so a legal guardian was assigned or appointed to take care of that estate for the owner until he became age of majority and could take that upon himself. In this situation, it's the state, and they never teach us that that's what we're supposed to do at age of majority, is correct the estate matters and no longer allow a state to administrate them as if though it's a probated value or probative matter. It should be presented with the request signed as described below to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or to the Bureau of Fiscal Services. If payment is requested under paragraph B, so it sounds to me like maybe you should have the account set up through Treasury Direct and the payments are held by these guys as the regular transfer agents to work with the Treasury Direct to do all the automated clearing. Okay? The letter described therein should accompany the bond. The request for payment in either case should be signed by the representative in his fiduciary capacity before an authorized certifying officer. So if you're going to do it, you've got to do it in your capacity fiduciarily as the owner of legal age with the primary account, using it as a portal to the linked account. And they would have to be as a legal guardian or custodian doing the same thing for you. It must be supported by a certificate or a certified copy of the letters of the appointment from the court making the appointment. So if somebody else is doing these things on your behalf or saying they have the authority, they better be able to come up with it. Third-party debt collectors saying they have the authority to go to a court and do this kind of stuff, they better have a certified copy of letters of appointment from the court making that appointment. Otherwise, you have no fiduciary capacity for an authorized certifying officer to make any communications, to access any bonds. Except in the case of corporate fiduciaries, such evidence should state that the appointment is in full force and should be dated not more than 1 year prior to the presentation of the bond for payment. And the note down here says, in any case in which a legal representative has not been appointed for the estate of a registered owner who has attained the age of 59.5 years or has become disabled, a person seeking payment of a bond on the owner's behalf should furnish a complete statement of the circumstances to the Bureau of Fiscal Service, Division of Transactions and Rulings. Appropriate instructions will then be furnished. So say the husband becomes paralyzed and he does so at the age of 50. The wife comes in and is a legal representative, and she has not been appointed for the estate of the registered owner because the person became disabled, and she's seeking payment of a bond on the owner's behalf. She should furnish a complete statement of the circumstances of her companion and their communion in wedlock or whatever, and state that, hey, he's disabled. I deserve to be able to legal guardian and maintain his estate in his best interest and my own best interest. Partial redemption. A retirement plan bond in a denomination greater than $50 face value, which is otherwise eligible for redemption, may be redeemed in part at current redemption value upon the request of the registered owner or a person recognized as entitled to act on his behalf. So I can imagine that one could have a bond with a redeemable value of $250,000 and extend it out as 12 monthly payments of $20,000 or whatever it is for that 1 year period. As an example, but only in amounts corresponding to authorized denominations. In any case in which partial redemption is desired before the request for payment is signed, the phrase "to the extent," face value, and reissue of the remainder should be appended to the request. Upon partial redemption of the bond, the remainder shall be reissued as of the original issue date, and no partial redemption of the bond will be made after the death of the owner in whose name it is registered. So after the death, the bond cannot be redeemed in partial. It must be redeemed in full. So if you find a bond or an account holding such bonds in your parents' names, grandparents' names, that you have a rightful legacy to make a claim to as an heir, then I would suggest letting them know that you have that rightness and you want them settled. Again, just the way I interpret this stuff, and it seems to be all a matter of process, that seems perfectly viable. And again, it goes back to that initiation of the contracts and the value and consideration. Under the UCC. And I see we lost John. My apologies. Didn't see him leave. We got Josh Junio in here, Imperium Privatus, Norm Life, Longstaff, Midlife Bro Logic. Check him out. Check him out. We got Bob, Creative Life, Jeff Wilbett. Sounds like a gambler, Rebel Studio. Welcome, folks. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Anybody that's still out. There's a PayPal link down there. Anybody wants to share some love. And I'm going to drop this StreamYard link for anybody who wants to come up again. Feel free. I know a lot of people don't like coming up on my panel because we go through a lot of information. A lot of it's definitions. It's kind of hard to rebut a lot of this, but I still need some input. Maybe I'm interpreting things wrong. But under, again, the UCC 3-303, value and consideration. An instrument, like we were talking about earlier, an instrument is issued or transferred for value if the instrument is issued or transferred for a promise of performance to the extent the promise has been performed. The transferee acquires a security interest or other lien, noting that security interest is in fact another lien. It's a type of lien. You have a security interest as some kind of lien. It's known as a maritime lien, a sacred lien. Okay? The transferee acquires a security interest or other lien in the instrument other than a lien obtained by a judicial proceeding. The instrument is issued or transferred as payment of or as security for an antecedent claim against any person, whether or not the claim is due, payable on death, or payment or redemption during lifetime, whether or not the claim is due. Antecedent, John Doe, prior to Joseph Doe, the one that you inherit things from, is antecedent to you. The antecedent claim against any person. You have the antecedent claim of your parents' estate against anybody trying to probate it and administrate it against you as if though it's theirs. Whether or not the claim is due, the instrument is issued or transferred in exchange for a negotiable instrument. The instrument is issued or transferred in exchange for a negotiable instrument. The instrument is issued or transferred in exchange for the incurring of an irrevocable obligation to a third party by the person taking the instrument. The instrument is issued or transferred in exchange for the incurring of an irrevocable obligation to a third party by the person taking the instrument. Mom took the instrument and it was in exchange for the incurring of an irrevocable obligation. An irrevocable or revocable trust is a trust of your lifetime estate. Once you pass on, once you die, once you become a deceased, once you are decedent, now the estate is supposed to be passed on to the legacy heir, and it is now irrevocable. So you have a revocable life estate trust that you established during your lifetime. That's all your property and assets and everything, and you get to manage that. Nobody else's business. You have a living will that you assign or appoint an executor to distribute your assets after you pass on. Ain't nobody else's business. What happens is third-party debt collectors come in and start making claims against your mom and dad's estate, saying, well, as a third-party debt collector, and they still owe them the house, we want portion of the house. That's a claim against that decedent estate. And if they're making a false claim and taking it out from under you, you lost your estate, your inheritance. That's why it's important for people to understand what's happening and understand how you pay for your father's sins. That's why I do this stuff. And again, don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. And don't believe your mother, for crying out loud. Do your research so you know. That's why I do this. And I'm learning, and I hope you can learn as well. The instrument is issued or transferred in exchange for the incurring of an irrevocable obligation to a third party by the person taking the instrument. Consideration means any consideration sufficient to support a simple contract. Offer and acceptance in formation of contract. They offered mom an instrument. She accepted it. And in that, there is an exchange for the incurring of an irrevocable obligation to a third party. Mom made an irrevocable obligation present with the United States or the state, however you want to look at both parties, the commercial entity, the legal entity known as the government, to a third party, their legacy heir, to a birth registration that if somehow that legacy heir, before becoming age of majority, died, they would handle his estate matters. That's what the death certificate is all about. See, they control all those certificates. They control the death certificate. Says, okay, you can now you have a permit to transfer the decedent body. That's why they need the death certificate, so they can allow for the transfer of the body. The performance, irrevocable obligation to bury you when you die. The drawer or maker of an instrument has a defense if the instrument is issued without consideration. The drawer or maker of an instrument has a defense if the instrument is issued without consideration. If an instrument is issued for a promise of performance, the issuer has a defense to the extent performance of the promise is due and the promise has not been performed. If an instrument is issued for value, as stated in subsection A, the instrument is also issued for consideration. So if there is no value, then there's no consideration. And if there's no promise to perform, then it's not been considered. Again, that performance is the probation of an estate in case they die before age of majority, or go on into adulthood and don't claim age of majority or prove their competence. That's the promise of performance, is that the state will manage them. They will become a ward of the state. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope everybody's following along. Because the next one I got is those definition sections of 12 U.S.C. 1813 and 12 CFR 204.2, where we're going to finally look at the definition of deposit when it comes to the transfer, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the agency, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the state or to the United States, and expenses incidental to transfer of title to the Postal Service. And that judicial determination by the judicial officer department, which is the neutral and independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of the judicial officer, the administrative law judge, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. So it is a judicial question of whether there is a valid standing contract and what those values and considerations are. So again, relative to establishing an account through Treasury Direct accounts and settling things through the automated clearinghouse of the Federal Reserve banks and branches or other qualified financial institutions. And so under 12 U.S. Code 1813 definitions, and it gives you a definition of bank, and we're going to go down here to definition of deposit. And this is in the U.S. Code, which is the codification. And then we're going to look at the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, which is the enforcement of the codification. And you'll see how well they match, which they should. So under deposit, the term deposit means the unpaid balance of money or its equivalent. The unpaid balance of money or its equivalent received or held by a bank or savings association in the usual course of business and for which it has given or is obligated to give credit. So in the exchange, they are obligated to give credit. If they haven't already done it, then they are obligated to do it. And that is the exchange. They take the definitive paper forms in those special direct deposits because they're the proper institution to do so and convert them to credits. simple. That's the first part to understand. Either conditionally or unconditionally to a commercial checking, savings, time, or thrift account, or which is evidenced by its certificate of deposit, thrift certificate, investment certificate, such as a reinvestment certificate, certificate of indebtedness. We've heard all these terms before. Or other similar name or a check or draft drawn against a deposit account and certified by the Bank or Savings Association, or a letter of credit or traveler's check on which the Bank or Savings Association is primarily liable. Because they are the primary account holders. When you go to a bank, they have an account that they hold with the central banks through the Federal Reserve, which is an account held by the central banks through the IMF. So it's just accounting and sub-accounting and sub-accounting and sub-accounting and sub-accounting. And they all account for you because you're the one that's giving the accounting. You have to make sure that that information and data elements are true and correct as well by understanding the language they're using. Provided that, without limiting the generality of the term money or its equivalent, any such account or instrument must be regarded as evidencing the receipt of the equivalent of money. The equivalent of money when credited or issued in exchange for checks or drafts or for a promissory note, upon which the person obtaining any such credit or instrument is primarily or secondarily liable. Okay? Provided that, without limiting the generality of the term money or its equivalent, any such account or instrument must be regarded as evidencing the receipt of the equivalent of money when credited or issued in exchange for checks or drafts or for a promissory note, upon which the person obtaining any such credit or instrument is primarily or secondarily liable. So again, when I say the customer agrees to make third-party payments, so long as it's understood that credit is given to the customer's account, it's stating that there are other parties that are liable, both primarily and secondarily, as again it states in UCC 3-402, when it comes to my capacity for that signature, authorized representative gives an unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument, is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument, because there's already a primary and secondary liability held by the principal and the contracting agent. I'm merely an account holder as a customer who is supposed to receive benefits. And my obligation is to give you truthful facts. Or for a charge against a deposit account or in settlement of checks, drafts, or other instruments forwarded to such bank or savings association for collection. Those other instruments forwarded, that's those securities that we've been talking about for purchase, buying, trading, or redeeming such securities. And that's the banks and savings associations, Federal Reserve banks, branches, and other financial institutions. Okay. Now let's look at the codification under the Code of Federal Regulations 12 CFR 204.2, the term deposit. 12 CFR 204.2, banks and banking, Federal Reserve System, Board of Governors, Federal Reserve System, reserve requirements of depository institutions. Deposit, again, means the unpaid balance of money or its equivalent received or held by a depository institution in the usual course of business, and for which it has given or is obligated to give credit, either conditionally or unconditionally, to an account, including interest credited. This is where it changes from the other definition under the code. Now, this is the Code of Federal Regulations at 204.2. This is the enforcement, and it says including interest credited or which is evidenced by an instrument on which the depository institution is primarily liable. Why would the depository institution be primarily liable on a birth certificate deposited into their institution? Because that birth certificate has two seals on it, implicating and corresponding directly with full faith and credit of the seals of the institutions that so are agreed and signed to that instrument. And those two names are different than the name of the individual. And therefore, they are the primary and secondary obligors of that particular institution of government. Same thing. So again, it comes with knowing what your process is in regards to this redemption, who's supposed to be doing it, and how you enforce it. And again, you can only enforce this through knowledge. And again, it's not something, like I said, I'm going to do or have done. I may do it, don't know. I certainly hope to present that the transfer of such titles through what I pose through my interpretations would be viable. And the only way that I could prove them to be viable would be to do them myself. And like I said, I've got a good position to at least make that discerned path because of the adoption and my unique situation where I understand that adoption was a conversion of a birthright, and that the birthright through the birth certificate is also a conversion of the actual birthright, and all these things. It's just a set of contradictions that show that if you just disclaim that you are knowledgeable and put forth that you're just an idiot, you didn't understand this stuff before, but the way it seems now, this says this, and this says this, and it seems logical that if that's the way this says, it all works together, I would think it would be amenable because it's not causing any problems with security issues. It's actually, in fact, solving any issues with those security issues as to the integrity, because I already know they're in error. I'm only trying to fix them. In fixing them, there would seem to be logical transfers that would be required to have happen based on their own laws of those transfers. Decedent, payable on death, payable payments and redemption during lifetime. Why would they have that stuff if there was nothing like that available? So think about this stuff. Hold on just a second, folks. I'll be damned. I thought I turned it back on. My apologies. I know we've had a lot of material here relates to the trust fund and redemption. And like I pointed out at the very beginning, that trust fund of decedent estates under the Department of State, anytime you have people that have been passing on without leaving a living will, there's a possibility that there's some estate property being held for rightful heirs. And since I'm in a position where I was adopted and I can go back and seek my birthright through my biological family, I don't know if there was a will written in any property left, but I know that if I go back and I find out there's any decedent estate property that claims to be abandoned or held as a value within their system, I should be able to find that and have that transfer made. In that establishes a certain number of credits, and of course also establishes the fact that these courts trying to administrate or probate probated estates as a presumption would prove that they have no that they have no authority to do such things as it corresponds with Scott versus McNeil. The courts of probate have no right to assign the appointment of administration over an estate if the person is in fact alive. It's only when there's a decedent that they can then come in, and that's only if there is no living will. If there's a living will, it doesn't go to probate. It should remain in the private. Set up appropriately, there would be an executor that will distribute the property according to legalities, and there may be some private attorneys in there make sure the paperwork is done properly, but it's not a court matter. It's a private matter. This is why you don't enter a living will into the courts. It's a private issue. As soon as you do that, it makes it a public issue, and the only thing they can do with that is put it in a probate, because they know that the guy putting a living will on a public court record is confused himself, and therefore not legally competent. He's legally incompetent, and therefore they will take control of that estate as a minor, just by presumption. Okay? Presumption and misidentification. And we'll talk some more about that sometime too. But the next time I'm going to be back was with Word Wizard. We're going to do some etymology again, like I said, with library and bureau, as all this relates to that Bureau of Vital Statistics, the birth enumeration at birth and all of that. So think about this stuff, folks, and remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.